So my biggest idols throughout my entire life have always been a desire for comfort and for control. So stepping into an engagement with somebody who's going to be in the military, one of the hardest things to wrap my mind around was how I was going to survive a life as an Army wife where I'm completely stripped of all comfort and all control. My biggest prayer was that the Lord would strip me of any and all idols and to do whatever it takes, whatever he needed to do to make him the number one spot in my life. And he for sure answered that prayer. Before I knew Joe, my faith was sincere and I had a lot of head knowledge about the Lord. I didn't really have a super intimate understanding of the Lord's character and how he worked. Joe and I met in high school. We served in the children's ministry together at our home church. We knew each other and we were friends, but we weren't super close until it was about my sophomore year of college. We ran into each other on campus at Virginia Tech and we hit it off and we started dating after that. Dating him was such a joy. He was the biggest gentleman that I've ever known. He was incredibly selfless and incredibly servant-hearted, incredibly hardworking, really funny, really goofy, for sure, one of the best guys that I've ever known. So the fall of my senior year, Joe asked me to marry him, and of course I said yes. We booked a venue, we picked a date, I got a dress. So it was April of 2016. We ended up going to the emergency room because he wasn't feeling super great. They diagnosed him with something called pleurisy, which is just when the fluid around your lungs gets inflamed. And they sent him home, said he was going to be fine. We didn't worry about it too much. He still wasn't feeling great in the days that followed, but nothing super of concern. The Friday after that had just been a couple days following our hospital visit, and he was getting ready to drive me home after we had finished hanging out. And we got in the car to leave his neighborhood. As we were exiting his neighborhood he was driving, he had a heart attack in the front seat of the car. I was in the passenger seat and was able to put the car in park and call 911. But unfortunately, Joe had passed before the EMTs were even able to get there. In an instant, my entire world was turned upside down. This future that I had planned with Joe was gone in an instant. Those first couple months afterward were pretty much survival mode, just trying to take it hour by hour and day by day. But as things kind of began to settle, the Lord slowly began to work in my heart and reassure me that there is a life and that there is a future outside of the one that I had envisioned, and that his goodness is just as present as it was in the life that he was going to create for me with Joe. Lamentations 3:21 through 24 says, "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him." So I'd always known that the Lord was a faithful God and that the Lord was a healer, in my head. But I'd never really seen him tangibly work those things out. I very quickly came to understand what peace that surpasses all understanding means. That is a very tangible and physically felt thing. Even just in little glimmers of joy and hope that came in the months that followed, I was able to believe that this is not the end. This is just the beginning of the Lord proving his goodness and faithfulness. The Lord very tangibly healed me mentally and physically and spiritually. I think the Lord proved aspects of his character that I'd never seen before, and therefore I feel like I know him in a way that I could never have known him without going through such a messy circumstance. The most humbling thing that came out of it was the deep understanding that I have absolutely no control over what the future might bring. And I for sure, for the first time, opened my hand as wide as it could possibly go and say, anything and everything that I have is the Lord's and is a gift, and it can be taken away at any moment. And that's not a scary thing, that's just a humbling thing, and has kind of shaped the way that I view life and gifts and blessings even to this day. one way that I did get to see the Lord redeem this situation already was that on October 16th, the day that we would have gotten married, it was a Sunday, I got to be baptized by the pastor that would have done our wedding ceremony, which was incredible. So on a day that should have been one of the hardest and darkest days of this whole grieving process, the Lord stepped in and said, let's celebrate new life and let's celebrate the life that I've given you. And I got to proclaim in front of all my friends and family how I'm still all in, and so I believe in the goodness of the Lord. But the thing that I dreaded most, which was being completely out of control and out of my comfort zone, has actually been one of the coolest and sweetest places to be. I think this season of my life has just been defined by an understanding that I have no idea what the future is going to bring. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day or 5 years from now or 10 years from now. But I do know that the Lord is there and he knows. And that's the only person who really needs to know. And that has given me a lot of joy and freedom, just being able to be hands off and say, the Lord has got this and I don't need to predict it. I just need to follow him through it. And that's a sweet place to be.